I'm not arguing vaccines are a bad idea. I think they're a good thing. But I think the parents should have some input. The state doesn't own your children. Parents own the children, and it is an issue of freedom.
Physician and Kentucky Senator Rand Paul right there alongside Miranda Kahn. J.D. Hayworth back with you now on America's Forum. Miranda, you made mention of it in your Newsmax Now update, the vaccination debate picking up steam, especially with the recent outbreak of measles.
Yeah, and as you just heard, the debate seems to have taken a political turn. We just heard from Senator Rand Paul and his views on vaccinations, but he's not the only one chiming in following his comments. Hillary Clinton took to Twitter with this to say. She says, the science is clear, the earth is round, the sky is blue, and vaccines work. Let's protect all of our kids. Grandmother knows best.
And that hashtag, a distinction on her new status as a grandma. Joining us now, the guy with the same status. He's the host of Behind the Curtain, a conservative strategist. I think I can even say at one point he was a lobbyist. More on the story. Calling in our pal, Jack Burkman from Newsmax,
JD,
Washington.
Pleasure, my friend.
Well, I'm a recovering
everything?
congressman. We just have to lay it all out there on the table, pal. How do you see this debate playing out, Jack?
Oh, I think, JD, this is part and parcel. It's one more way in which liberals want to grow out the state. They want to grow out the healthcare bureaucracy. Someday they're going to have required blood tests for everybody, maybe in the name of AIDS or something like that. God knows what they'll do. I see it as one more way in which the Leviathan grows out. I think conservatives are just going to be overrun on this. I don't think a guy like Boehner wants to fight on an issue like this. McConnell might a little bit. But I just think, sadly these days we're getting overrun a lot. This could be one more episode of that.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you think that parents should have the right to choose whether or not to vaccine their children?
No, well, I think it's a question of which vaccines. I think it's a question of how. You see, the state wants to take this in a direction. People want this to go in a direction where there are many vaccines. They want to have a vaccine for everything. But you see what this is? This is one more facet of state control. This is the health.
Let's talk about the measles outbreak that's going on right now. So you're saying certain vaccines you shouldn't be able to decide, but others you
I
can.
mean, measles, I'm presuming all children are being vaccinated for measles. I presume both of you are. I don't think that's even
see, Jack, that is the problem. In California, one of the reasons they believe the outbreak there has grown, if not exponentially, at least dramatically, is because parents have been reluctant to immunize their kids to a variety of things. And obviously you and I assume measles, but there's a larger question here, Jack, and a distinction we need to make. Yes, we have certain individual rights. With rights come responsibilities. And if science has developed vaccines that are truly required for something like measles we thought was eradicated here years ago, with the right, does there not also come a responsibility for immunization?
No question, JD. For something like measles, that's very basic. I wouldn't argue that at all. I think you're 100% correct. I don't think any sensible person would argue that. What I'm talking about are those things on the fringe. I mean, all kinds of, they will want to give all kinds of vaccines to children for, mental conditions. I mean, anything you can think of. You'll see a long litany of vaccines coming into play. Those are the things we need to watch for. I just think we need to watch the growth of the health bureaucracy, because the health bureaucracy is really the core of the Leviathan. It looks innocuous, but it's not innocuous.
So, Jack, what do you think about Rand Paul's comments, Hillary Clinton, Governor Chris Christie? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Rand Paul, I think he echoes my view. I mean, I think he's concerned. I think he's concerned as a libertarian. He's a strong libertarian, maybe the leading libertarian in the country. I think generally he shares my view. I think if you break it right down, he shares my view. I think Hillary Clinton, I mean, again, on measles, I don't think there's any issue with something on measles. I'm talking about things that are much broader on the perimeter. I mean, let's think of it.
But that's not what Senator Rand Paul was saying.
Well, no, maybe I have a misunderstanding.
No, he's saying he believes vaccinations are a good idea, but he wasn't specifying which ones you should use it for and which ones you shouldn't. He was saying that parents reserve that right. That is what he's saying. He's taking that more libertarian kind of view.
Yes, and I think parents should reserve the right, of course. And I don't think there's any substantive agreement. What I'm concerned about is the state stepping in and mandating a whole new range of vaccines for children that they really don't need. And what I'm suggesting is that's what's coming. That's what's coming. I think that's the future. I think that's dangerous. Sure, for measles, I don't see any, we have no substantive debate with any of this, but I think what's coming is very dangerous because I think you will see more and more vaccines. For instance, they'll say, well, why don't we vaccinate children against this form of mental illness? Or why not vaccinate children against some form of ADD or something like that?
Well, we're getting into the realm of speculation instead of what has gone on before. Perhaps a more appropriate example is the Gardasil debate that went on in Texas involving adolescent females having some sort of inoculation. I believe the notion was it would prevent a certain virus that might lead to cervical cancer. HPV, I believe it is,
HPV, right?
HPV, human papilloma virus, I believe. So Governor Perry moved very aggressively to move into the realm of immunizing, and that became a real political hotbed, almost a preview of what we're seeing play out right now on the political stage with the looming presidential debate and presidential campaign.
Parents should have the choice with something like that. I think what you have to do, you can't have the state force that has nothing to do with some kind of epidemic. It's not like measles. The parent has to have a choice in a situation like that. It's not for the state. It's not for the state it's not for government to come in and impose that, force that by law.
But Jack, who draws the line? Who draws the line? Who deciphers what the state should decide and what the parents should decide?
Well, that's why we have legislatures. The Texas state legislature, the Congress of the United States, that's why we have elected representatives, folks like JD. They have to come in and draw those lines. What I'm suggesting is we have to be very, very careful, very, very careful. If something like measles or mumps, that's something that affects a broad variety of people. Sure, you have to require that a child be immunized because if that child gets sick, that can affect other children. Something like papilloma, that's just going to affect that child. You have to let that child's family make the choice on something like that. I'm just very cautious. See, a lot of things appear innocuous, but slowly over time, it's a very insidious way of growing out the power of government. And it's a very, very dangerous. I've been watching.
And on that note, Jack, we're going to ask you to stay with us. On the other side, we're going to have Ryan Zinke, the former Navy SEAL, the freshman member of Congress from Montana, to talk budget numbers. America's Forum is back right after this Newsmax Now update.